Good morning. I'd like to discuss some concepts for developing access into northern communities. I believe this is a path forward to communities that are remote. Are any of you representing or here from northern remote communities? Okay, because those are the ones specifically that I'm speaking to this morning. There are many concepts for developing all-season, all-weather roads into northern communities. And I'd like to talk about three concepts this morning. One is providing one access road to each community. Secondly, sharing access into a community, into multiple communities. And thirdly, the concept of developing a northern highway network that provides access, easier access to remote communities. Roads are the key to development in northern First Nations. I'm not reading it correctly. And they have the First Nations have an opportunity to shape the path forward with that. There are many benefits to reliable access to our communities. There's reduced cost of living in the community. It opens up the possibility for more band members to live year-round in the community. It encourages development in the community. It's easier access to health, and it encourages the potential for resource development. It grants communities greater access to their lands. Power transmission, the presentation just before me was on power, on energy in the north, and he was saying that they rely on road access for getting transmission lines into the north, and much safer than ice roads. The end product, it looks like most of you come from communities that have road access, and so you understand this. But for those that don't have it, the end product is a stronger community that is less reliant on outside support. Imagine what it would be like if each remote community tried to get funding for their own road. We end up with a spaghetti of small trails seeking to reach into northern communities. Each community wants, and I would say needs, access. And many are currently pursuing the right, the ability to gain access to their communities, but it's not tenable to have a spaghetti of trails working north. If related communities join forces to develop shared access into the communities, they also share the cost of their shared road and the resulting benefits as well. When you share the cost, it justifies higher standard of road, reduced cost for the access road to each community, reduced maintenance costs, greater justification for bridging gaps, crossing muskeg swamps, crossing river crossings, and more traffic means it's also safer in inclement weather conditions. So it's much better for communities to work together. With this concept, small roads follow the most direct routes to connect several communities. More communities can gain all-season, all-weather access by using this concept because they are working together. If you look at the diagram, there's not nearly as much road as there is if each community is trying to develop its own access, because the communities are working together, building upon what the previous community has. I'd like to suggest that there's a better concept yet, and that's what I'd like to move to. If the communities are able to garner support for a northern highway network, it would have additional benefits as well. There's further reduction in cost to the communities. The communities would have highway access closer to the community. There would be greater development in the north. justifying community-sponsored services. If there was a highway network, then the communities would then be able to provide service stations, gas stations, grocery outlets. There'd be justification for larger northern health centers, larger service and shopping areas. There would be more reliable access in all weather, justification for even bridging larger rivers. There would be access redundancy. Currently, when I work on a road that goes up north, in the morning you see a truck go up and you're working away, and in the afternoon you see the truck come back. There's no other way in, no other way out. When we build bridges and roads, but when we take out a bridge for construction, it cuts off the community, and because there's no other way. If we have a network, then there's alternate, I call it access redundancy, as we understood with the Nipigon River Bridge. One of the things that they learned is that they now have to have an alternate bridge for the Nipigon. Nipigon looks good. Nipigon's a nice bridge, but we need an alternate bridge in case the Nipigon goes down so we can get across Canada. Similarly, a network provides access to communities from different angles. Also easier to get between communities as well. If you have road access currently, it's not an issue to go from one community to another. If you have to fly, often you have to fly through a hub to get to the next community. So imagine a highway network, such as the green east-west highway, plus the current highway network, and the blue north-south highways. In this network, if this network were in place, it doesn't take very long roads, access roads, to get into each community. You can see that most of the communities now are not very far from such a network, and so it wouldn't take long to get to the highway. I'd like to talk on, there's just lots of benefits to a system like that, but there are also lots of challenges. In order to get a system like this, no single community warrants justification for a highway network like that. The communities would have to work together. Even the communities themselves probably wouldn't warrant a system like that. But if we can bring on board the resource community, mining and forestry and hydro, then there's a chance that now we're starting to get enough justification. Sorry. We're starting to get enough justification for a network like that. And so one of the things I wanted to get across is that if the First Nations are to lead an initiative like this, it's critical for them to build support, to build cooperation between the stakeholders and the government as well. What are the steps to developing such a system? I would like to suggest there's 4 steps. There's many other steps, but 4 steps. Firstly, it's developing a plan for such a network. Where is the best place for the roads to go, for highways to go, so that it takes the high ground, so it crosses the rivers at the right locations, so it goes close to the right communities, so that it provides long distance benefit, probably even to the next provinces, to Quebec, the East James Bay Road, to the west, to north of Lake Winnipeg. I'm dreaming, but I think the big dreams are okay. Where would a network be best to go? I think it's critical that if this is something like this were to happen, that would have First Nations support. And I don't think it would go ahead without that. So I put that as a second. Part of developing the network plan would be looking at the social and the natural environmental impacts. But at some stage, we also have to go through and mitigate those impacts and ensure that we don't bring impacts, or we mitigate, minimize the impacts to the natural and social environment and get approvals. And lastly, it's a phased implementation. I don't think there's any government that would say, okay, we'll dedicate $2 billion to building such a network in the north. But if we have a plan, as there is a need for community access, as there's a need for forestry access, as there's a need for mining access, like the Ring of Fire, if they were to build components of the network, then, and if they're building along the network, then in the end, the government doesn't have to put a lot of money in to complete the network. So the idea is to get all of the stakeholders working together to build something that in the end is greater than what each stakeholder needs. It's bigger than what the communities need, bigger than what the government needs, bigger than what the resource industry needs, but it benefits everybody in the end. There are some roadblocks to such a network. Probably the greatest roadblock is that we all have different priorities, different things that we are looking for, each of the stakeholder groups. And it would be easy to focus on the differences and not on the gains. It would be easy to focus on side issues and lose sight of the main issue. And so it's sometimes hard to develop trust and interdependence. And so one of the greatest roadblocks, I think, is developing consensus between all of the stakeholders. In that regard, I only see something like this happening if there is someone who has the authority within the First Nation community, the government, one of the stakeholder groups, if there's somebody who has their support and can see the benefits to all stakeholders, can advance a concept, and can be a catalyst for discussion. And lastly, probably not the least, is funding. Funding first for a plan, and then funding to obtain buy-in from, not necessarily funding from the resource sector, if we can get them to buy in, funding from government, if they see the benefit of it, and then funding for maintenance of the highway system. I think that there could be great benefits to developing a northern highway system that provides access across the north, a second Trans-Canada, so to speak, that provides access across the north, but also access to the northern communities, all weather, all season, reliable access to the north, not just little roads punched along tortuous routes, but highways that would give good access into the north. And so I've looked at, we've been involved in several projects, but each project going to one community, that's what made me think of this, the progression. Each project going to one community can't get enough funding to get a good road into that community. So each road is a tortuous little road that provides access. That's great. There are benefits to access. But I'd love to see all the stakeholders working together and developing something that is greater than any one stakeholder can develop. So that's my vision. I just wanted to communicate that to you and see if there's any resonance there. I don't know if there's any questions, any thoughts, maybe some insights. I can learn a lot from you guys.
Actually, our community, we had a all-red road design draft that was supposed to take us down to Bearskin, down to Superpad, and down to Macoop Lake, and connect to Musselway.
Yeah.
the challenges we faced were that Musselwhite had informed us that we needed letters, permission from the 3 trappers in the area,
Mm-hmm.
and we needed support from North Kibble First Nation to kind of connect to that road.
Yeah.
And then we found out that we weren't getting the support from that community. They didn't want us to go down the road. I talked to one of their officials, and they wanted to preserve that land, and they're actually talking of closing that Musselwhite Road when the mine closes. It could be 30, 50 years.
Yeah.
But that's what they're saying. We looked at an alternate road where we met with KI chief and our chief in Bearskin, and we had talked about working with the other communities, like to the south of KI, which is Casablanca,
Yeah.
one mile that much. So where it is that I think there's some kind of fallout that occurred with all the communities in that area over some kind of corporation that happened. So that's where that is. But so we said, okay, maybe what we'll do then is that we'll try to propose a route that goes to the west of the communities, close enough for them to connect,
Yeah.
but have a route that goes down to the west of each community so that we're not trying to propose a route that interconnects communities.
Yeah.
We're
Yeah.
actually just going to the sides of the communities and leave it up to their discretion to see if they want to connect.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
And so our next plan is to hold a meeting with the perhaps newly elected one of my Kingfisher chiefs.
Mm-hmm.
Sometime we're just waiting for the elections to pass
Yeah.
and see if we can start with them. They'll be our main sources because they'll be in their traditional lands to talk to.
Yeah.
So we're hoping that we can get a road that we can get the communities to agree on, and that we can propose a road that goes down to the bypasses Musselwhite Mine
Mhm.
too. It goes down there. We had somebody from Bob Nalt, sort of like a partial interest, more like it. Sort of interested, but I submitted a proposal to him to start up a conference to invite the communities to
Mhm.
have a consensus meeting where we can
Yeah.
actually have a proposal along what you're saying, but ours is to look at Google Earth and our previous mapping and to see if we can have the route to be able to agree to that.
Yeah. Yeah.
And if they don't, then I guess we're stuck with trying to go down to Muscat Dam and Yedamau.
Yeah.
Yedamau has a public road.
Yeah. We're just working with Wegama to get, or North Caribou Lake to get access in there.
And we don't know what
Yeah.
the position of Muscat Dam First Nation is on that issue either.
Yeah.
And so those are the issues that we face.
I'm convinced of two things. The biggest obstacle is cooperation or lack of cooperation. The greatest benefit will be if we look beyond our own needs and see the needs of others. If we accommodate the needs of others often, that will end up assisting us as well. If some of the First Nations that are closer to the south support those that are further north, they will actually get a better road out of it and more funding because it adds up as you go. And so, but it's so I just encourage those who are here, look beyond your own needs and think of the needs of others, and you will actually end up gaining from that as well. That it sounds counterintuitive initially, but if you think through the presentation here, when you work cooperatively, when you support, by supporting others and working with them, you can actually get a better access system than if you try to do it on your own. So, thank you. Yeah. Any other thoughts, insights? Yes?
I'm from Waterman.
Mm-hmm.
Right now, our community is looking at, we have a winter, we're looking at realigning the road to Forest Equity on high ground. And that would be a transition between all season, you know.
Okay, yes. Yeah.
The problem we've encountered is getting our cooperation from the communities south of us. We
Yeah.
have to go through 3 different communities to listen what their thoughts. And we can't get their consent or permission to go through their thoughts.
Yeah.
So that's a
Yeah.
area for us that now.
Yeah.
But, these communities do not problems with allowing non-native groups to go to their areas, so.
I would strongly encourage a cooperative spirit because through that spirit we can all gain. And so I strongly encourage that. Yeah.
That's the reason why I was trying to get this funds from INAC, because it's a matter of too many times the communities they fall into this divide and conquer approach, because this colonization that happened with Indian Act, federal government a long time ago, all the First Nations, they don't work together. That's the truth. And everybody has their own agenda. And and the thing is that too often that if they don't see any benefits for themselves, they won't support it. But and I had proposed that all communities buy in and set up a corporation of some sort where we divvy up the funds equally to all the communities.
Yeah.
And that road construction project would be, all the funds would be dispersed evenly among all the shareholder communities. That way to get everybody on board. And there's a lot of things to consider with that. Equipment needs, for example, a lot of communities have smaller loaders, small tandem trucks. And for that kind of road that we need something big. We need big loaders, big tandem trucks. And the other angle too is that we don't know what the M&R's position on this as well.
Yeah.
They say that we need a land use plan to, in order for us to build what's, we need a land use plan in place.
Yeah. Yeah.
But the problem we have with the land use plan on their terms is that it gives them total control. Once we put the land use plan in place, they have total control in some way. We feel that it infringes on our treaty rights because we never surrender the lands to the British Crown ever.
Yeah.
And that's a fabrication on their part. We never surrender the lands.
So I appreciate that perspective. Thank you. Yeah. 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 Good. If you would like to discuss routes and like that some more, Rob Furnett or myself, we're competitors, but we both provide the same type of service.
Friendly competitors.
Friendly competitors. We sat down to talk about this beforehand, but yeah. So we so feel free to contact us if you want to. I commend those who are quite a few are successfully advancing roads, access roads on their own, and I commend that. But again, that will end up in the first scenario with little roads going north, and it's not the most efficient. And so I just strongly encourage you, I don't want to overemphasize it, I strongly encourage a cooperative spirit because you can go a lot better. Yes, Cheryl.
Curious, what do you think the decision around the Roadways power line, obviously you're building it to access to more communities for power, would provide what might be compensation around
Yes.
roads.
Yeah.
Much more cohesive way in agriculture.
Yes, and so the routes that they choose, they have some routes already, but those will be adjusted with time. Will have an impact on roads as well. They may not always be the best routes for roads, and yes, it'll be interesting to see what they develop. Yes, and that would be part of the discussion.
And there's 22 communities who, as sort of alluding to, are communicating. And they're communicating on this particular topic of, obviously the transmission line. But those same communities can then also communicate on roads, communicate
Yes.
on other things if the framework is there for that communication. You sort of highlighted what you're doing now, which is establishing that communication base. I think that's exactly the way to go. You're doing the same from one of them, is trying to get people involved in the discussion. And it sounds like it's a lot tougher road than I think a lot of people going into the first thing.
Yeah.
But there's some successes. You're starting to get some feedback and organizing something more structured. And same for one of them is trying to get that together.
Yeah.
But you've got a strong leader who's trying to pull communities together.
So another question we have to the back. You had a question? Okay.
And then the structure of the road construction for the mining company.
Mm-hmm.
We have an all-season road that leads from Pickle Lake to Windigo Lake.
Yes.
In our northern area.
Yes.
And to my understanding, the research that I did in the past is that the road was intended for it to go to the mine.
Mm-hmm.
And I was just wondering if it has any effect with that road, with the Musselwhite mine that we have now. Because in what I understand, when the mining company built the road, they have to decommission it when they're done. Is that true?
It depends on the uses of it. Do you have any insight in that?
Nothing.
No. Yeah, it depends on the agreement that they have with it. If there's a use, if they build that road for the mine, but specifically with the community in mind, then I think the community would have reason to say that the road could remain. So I think it depends on the situation. But if their agreement with the community is that it will be removed, then they would have to do that.
Yeah, I think that was one of the things that you stated that had gone on when we gave them a vote to the area.
Mm-hmm.
They're saying, what they've been saying is that we're not in the road building business. They want to continue to build it, or it could be a consortium of partnerships between First Nations who could build that road. Now, what they're saying is if they end up building it, they will have to decommission it. And the operations are over. As part of the decommissioning requirements.
I believe there's options.
To get together and build those roads themselves,
Mm-hmm.
and also it should be their own policies on future access to that area. They will control that access.
Mm-hmm.
And otherwise, Ontario builds it, it's just open from the rules, And one of the concerns our communities have is the access issue, right?
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Another thing that they have to talk about collectively, they really don't want that access and
Yes. Yeah. There was another question over here. Okay, yes, go ahead.
Further on my question, how would I be able to get some answers in regard to that, the commissioning, the highway of Musselwhite Road in the future, and the First Nations want to use that highway?
That would probably be with the mine itself, because it depends what agreement they have. That would be part of their agreement. So if they have an agreement that requires them to remove it, then that would be part of that agreement. Not all mine roads have to be removed. It depends on the situation. So, do you have any insight in that, Rob? No. Yeah.
the Musselwhite road access,
Yes.
it's only that link there from that highway, what do you call it, 808?
Yeah.
The 808 was built a long time ago, it wasn't built by Musselwhite.
Mm-hmm.
But the only thing we're doing is that access.
It's just the link up north.
So it's a private road,
Mm-hmm.
so I think that was part of the decommissioning
Yeah.
conditions.
Yeah.
They're paying for it.
Yeah.
Or the communities can renegotiate the agreement, you know, think we're gonna.
So,
Now, so there's an income plan.
yeah. So I think you would need to check with Musselwhite as to what their agreement states. If it's the private road, then the government, MTO doesn't control it. So MTO wouldn't have the regulations for it. So, yeah. There was another question over here. Yes.
I just wanted to comment in regards to my colleagues' comments about developing roads. We've been in discussion with several communities, Wapika was invited to attend and discuss with the road realignment with some Shabona communities and also Ottawa communities. We've had several meetings here in Thunder to discuss rerouting the winter road. And the reason why I brought it up is in your comments, in developing reliable roads. I think First Nations are already looking in that direction by realigning the winter roads
To higher ground. Yeah.
be more easily transformed into all seasons.
Yeah.
We have ongoing discussions in that. I believe there's numerous communities, not just us discussing better and reliable roads in the future. And that's why I think a lot of them are looking at higher. The one we were looking at is from Big Trout and Wapika, linking northern Casablanca and then down to Casablanca to Summer Beaver.
To Summer Beaver. Okay. Yeah.
And then at a later stage, interested community join our discussions, particularly one in his community as well.
Yeah. Yeah.
So an ongoing discussion, just looking at ways trying to improve
Yeah.
the access to
Yes, go ahead.
And actually, I was just going to ask a quick, because you've kind of started that already as youth as well. Is there, or has there been a thought of a Northern Ontario, like a roads conference to get everyone together? Or is it still in small, sort of pocketed discussions now?
I started something called a treaty conference, invited 9 communities to attend last February. We had 9. We had 4 representatives from each community. It was funded by the Aboriginal Affairs Ontario office. We touched on concept of all-weather road, among other things, run of the river energy systems and stuff like that. And I discussed the idea of forming a partnership. I've been trying to get funds from Evening Affairs to, I gotta follow up with the Robin Mount and see that if they can fund a treaty conference, all-weather road conference. Specifically, my idea was to try to get communities to bring the plans to the table. We have our all-weather road pre-feasibility. We have an alternate road design. We have a backup road design. We wanted to see if we can get the communities to agree on a proposed road site, because we're hearing conflicting stories. Like one community told me that Kingfisher, Wonderman, Vivanamik, Skandaga, Yavanduk wanted to connect way across down to Thunder Bay. Another one, going down to Geraldton, then to Thinner Bay. Another one told me that there will be Waterman, Casabon, or I think it was Waterman, Casablanca, Wapka, Wapka, I think, and KI were looking into the possibility of going down to Pickle Lake, and that's route number 2. And route number 3 was Bearskin Lake going along the side of traditional territory of KI down to connect to it more on the side of to the east of Kingfisher and Waterman, and then down to the main road. So we've come down, if you go to Bearskin,
Okay, bearskin.
surf at Bearskin, go to the west of KI,
Okay,
and then down, and stay on the west of Kingfisher and Waterman, and down. We just wanted a simple route that doesn't go directly into the communities, and we're trying to bypass the North Caribou land use planning.
Mhm.
We wanted to see if Kingfisher wanted to come on board and get a road come on directly. If the other communities were on board, then maybe they could come through the communities and come to the road.
Mhm.
That's what we're looking at.
Yeah,
But in
Yeah.
order for us to do that, we actually need to meet with the chiefs of the communities and propose idea and all the
Yes, yeah.
resource personnel.
So
And
that-
the other route, to if you
Okay,
finish,
sure.
go back up to Bearskin. The other route is down to Bearskin to Muscat and then North Caribou, but we don't know what Muscat's doing. We're just kind of waiting for the results of the election. Our first plan is to go with Kingfisher Waterman, and if that doesn't work out, then we'll go down to North Caribou, see if we can connect down that way.
Mhm.
But at the moment, it doesn't look like Muscle White may be an option, because 3 trappers who are affiliated with North Caribou First Nation, they're trapping territories in that area, and that the consensus is that if North Caribou doesn't want to develop this land, and if their plan is to close the road, I guess
Mhm.
that's where it'll be if that's
Yeah.
the agreement.
Yeah.
But we do know that one of them, North Caribou, and I think Kingfisher shareholder committees with an agreement with Muswell. I don't know the exact details, but I assume that's the case.
Okay,
So those are the complexities. We talked to a lady who was called Adele Faber, who was the manager of Aboriginal Affairs with Muswell Mine, and getting this info. So that's why we wanted to kind of get all these committees to attend, specifically the chiefs. We don't mind meeting with the community consultation officers or land resources officers, but we need the people who can make the decisions.
yes, yeah,
Yeah.
and the commitments.
Yeah.
Yeah, good. I appreciate your input. My time is up.
Yeah.
So do you mind if I pass on?
Yeah.
I appreciate your input from each of you. Thank you. And I'm going to pass. Oh, there is someone who's really wanting another point.
I'm from Nothern First Nation, and I'm a community-based land data collector, and we have a planning members. And just to let these people know here, we're not really much involved with the road planning. I understand we have a road committee member, but we never met him and never discussed us what's their plan. And the first time when we started land use planning, we were told, my understanding was, when the planning, community planning is complete, that's when everything's going to start. Development and all that. Now it's not happening like that. And it seems to be in a rush to kind of start up transmission or whatever, and then all of a sudden you're using the road. It's like what happened. The way it's confusing which way my community, they want to build the roads, or other communities. To me, what I want to bring up here is, I guess, when I was a young guy, I was 13, 12 years old, 14 years of age, and my school years in those days in the past, we were taught this country was the biggest Ojibwe territory. And what happened, this Ojibwe territory has been divided so many pieces. And another guy mentioned that I think that's what's creating it, because division can create a problem. Just like what's happening in the third world. There's been a lot of things happening out there, nothing good about it. And if we learn to recognize ourselves as understanding what used to be called this great territory, rather than versus what ourselves as understanders can learn to work together, just like that man was saying, I think was him that was talking, and to work cooperatively, make each of us understand which way the road should be built. The only reason why some people don't want the road to be built is because there are some values in that area. And some of them may want to get benefit out of that as well, to use that road for a purpose, for whatever they want to plan. If we don't learn to work together, cooperatively, this is the right way to go. We're just fighting over. This is the road. A road is very important for other northern communities. I think they should be given a chance to be first and whatever they want to say, because they are our brothers and sisters in our past. The elders I interviewed, but they're gone now, they said to me, in the old days, they cleared the land. They didn't say, get out here, this is my territory. We don't belong here. They didn't say that. Matter of fact, some of the Almonton Creek Nation members, they go as far as Fort Severn area. In the old days, come down here in Fort William, and then in West, East, and Fort Albany. They traveled almost everywhere. Maybe there was some hardship sometimes, but we're not sure. For me, if we want to help these people up north, I think our leaders have to recognize them. Leave out this division, what you call Matara territory. Oh, I'm not in territory, and this kind of got territory. We should leave that out. Let's bring back this big territory. And it's not big territory. All this not big have right to use that land. I think that's what they need to do. Let's get back together and work together. Give these guys what they want and make them realize it's important to build the road, because we don't know what kind of this climate change is going to do in the future.
I support that concept of working together.
I
Yeah.
want to say here, and I hope this goes to our leaders, and I hope they recognize that it's going to be a part of the plan. But that's why they ask us to do this plan, not to hold back everything, but to provide what they need to know. Like this guy, he can provide what he knows in this area. I'm sure that area, I'm sure the land as well, where, all that. That's all I'm saying for now.
Thank you. I appreciate your input. I agree with that. Thanks. Yeah.
To interrupt the
Yeah.
good discussion, but we
Thank
do
you.
have another presentation to get
Okay.
to, so thank you very much.
Thanks a
Bill.
lot then.
And here
Oh,
you go.
thank
Little
you.
gift for you.
Appreciate that. Yes.
So,